So check this out. My buddy and I put a bet together against each other of who could get in shape faster. Now we did this because both of us weren't exactly reaching our health and fitness goals. And even worse yet, we were getting further and further away from it. So what we did was we put a bet against each other like a challenge and to see who could get in shape better. Now the thing is, we know because we work with people all the time that in order to move somebody to take action and go to the next step, they either have to be drawn towards something or pushed away and repelled from something else. So in my case, I'm not exactly pushed towards physically losing weight or getting in shape and having this so-called physique. But I am more so propelled away from having to pay out if he beats me. So what we ultimately decided to do was we put a wager for $500, right? We put a wager between each other for $500 who could get us, I think it was like a six-pack first. And after 6 months, neither one of us got closer to where we wanted to be, and worse so, we both got further away. So what we decided at that point is we were going to double it. And not only double it, that wager, but we were going to continue to double it every 6 months until one of us was propelled enough away from having to pay out the other one or drawn towards actually making a change for the possibility of winning the earning. Now the thing is, we have to pay out the other one, and we have a bet, and we're going to stick to it. So the funny thing is about this, if you really do quick math, starting at $500, you're 11 doubles away. So 5.5 years, you're 11 doubles away from $1 million. So long story short, we've been at this bet for probably a year. I think we're close to like $2,000 is where the point is right now, and in December it goes to $4. So the thing is, what I got to do is kind of like jump in gear, and I'm going to walk you through the exact steps of how I would help somebody doing this in order to make a change and make a transformation. Now, first thing I want to talk about is, I've done this a lot of times because, I've helped people get there. And as a coach, our role is to be the GPS for somebody. And like a GPS, the first thing you want to do is figure out where are you going and where are you trying to go, but also where are you getting started. And then the GPS comes up with multiple routes or options, and then you choose as the person, right, of what route or option is best for you, whether you're trying to get there as quickly as possible, take more of the scenic route, avoid the highways or anything like that. The same goes true with a coach when you're trying to help somebody get the results they're looking for. Are you trying to just get there as quickly as possible? Or are you trying to enjoy the journey? And all that really depends on the person that you're working with. What I'm going to do is walk you through exactly what I do with my clients when I help them through this. And one of the biggest and challenging parts is really figuring out where they're going, but also where they're getting started at, and also just before getting started, what led them to where they're getting started at. Because that's typically wrapped up with something that made them fall off the cliff or fall off the path that led them to be unhappy to where they are. And I'll walk you through exactly what I mean for me and how to go through this, right? I'm going to show you behind the scenes of what we actually do. Now, first and foremost, as far as like where I'm trying to go, we made the bet for who can get a six-pack first because we didn't really come up with any better objective measure. Now, I don't really have any aspirations of having a six-pack anymore. I've had one. I've been relatively or mostly in shape for the vast majority of my life, and it just doesn't matter too much to me anymore. So I'm trying to simply do this as far as to see what I can kind of get back into shape. So I don't really have a pure cutoff position of where I want to be. However, I do know and remember from past experience that for me, when I was happy and healthy in a relatively great weight for myself, it was around 175 pounds. So for the case of this, I'm going to say 175. Now, as far as where I'm getting started, I just weighed myself in. Today is August 2nd, and August 2nd, 2022, and I'm at 198.2 pounds. And I weighed myself first thing in the morning after I went to the bathroom before I ate or drank anything, okay, and I wasn't wearing anything. So that's the most accurate information that I could start with. And I'll go through all like the other metrics of where I am and everything going as far as that. Now, what I need to do, the third part is kind of seeing like what led me here. As I mentioned, I've already been in shape, and I've had a six-pack for probably the vast majority of my life. And really, I think my story is not far off from the vast majority of people who are also looking at making changes. And that is something in life happen to you in which you let your health and fitness take the back burner. Now, for me, it was starting to practice. It was starting practice and managing and going through COVID. My wife and I, we got married, and we moved to the next stage of our life and everything. And with that came a lot of stress. And one of the things that really took the back burner was our health, both of us. And so that was a big thing for us. And then really being stressed out with helping clients and helping them get their goals, puts you in a position where when you're so dedicated to them, you take the eye off the ball for you. Even when leading from the front is something that you should be doing, it still can become challenging at times. And I'll be the first to admit, it got the best of me, and I'm no longer where I want to be. I'm not satisfied where I am, and this is why I'm making a change, and I'm going to document the entire process. So, now the reason I want to talk briefly about what led me here is, as a coach, that's what leads me to roadblocks, right? When I'm working with a client, and you see what are the the things that led them to where they are starting are typically the same kind of roadblocks that they're going to hit on the way out because they got accustomed to that, and on their journey to getting to where they want to go, they might encounter those roadblocks. So as a coach, if I know that, and again, if I'm the GPS, I can focus my best on, after mapping out the plan, of trying to find the best route that allows us to avoid as many roadblocks as possible. Now, the second part I want to talk about when working with coaches and clients yourself is non-negotiables. Every single person will have non-negotiables. Now, as a client or as a coach, as a provider helping with somebody, I have non-negotiables that I will not negotiate with. And as a as a client, there are non-negotiables as well. So as a coach, the biggest non-negotiable when it comes to changing your physical appearance, how you look, how you weigh, what have you, is CECO. CECO stands for calories in and calories out. And that essentially is just your energy balance. So in order to maintain our weight, we need to have the same amount of calories come in and the same amount of calories go out. In order to lose weight, we need to be at a deficit of less calories coming in versus coming out. And if we're trying to gain weight, we have more calories coming in than coming out. Now, because I'm trying to lose weight, I need to be in a deficit, or I need to have less calories coming in than coming out. Now, when I talk about CECO, it's like CI equals CO. And when you look at this, calories in, I think a lot of people think of just consuming food, and that is the vast majority. But the other part of like calories in is also going to play in a role of like water intake or fluid intake. And then as far as calories out come in two forms. Okay, most people think you have to do endless exercising, crazy amount of things to allow you to burn calories. That's just not true. And honestly, the vast majority of the calories you do burn should come from not the activity, the physical activity you're doing, but more of the day-to-day tasks that you're naturally doing in life. So that really can break down into physical activity and non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or commonly known as NEAT. Okay, NEAT is really just the calories that you burn of, laying around doing nothing, getting your steps in and things like that. And I'll talk about that. Now, as far as a client, some non-negotiables that we hear are, wanting to go out with friends, wanting to be able to have certain foods, wanting to be able to drink alcohol, and the flexibility or variability that they need in a program. And probably the most common one is tracking, and not wanting to track the data points that are coming in. And for me as a coach, tracking is a non-negotiable. So if I have a client that doesn't want to track, it's just they're not going to be a good fit for us, because we focus on building the best programs that science can provide to allow somebody to reach their goals in the shortest amount of time possible. And the absolute only way to do that is to have the data. And the only way we get the data is if you track. So if this is you and you're trying to figure out like what to do, but you're like, I know I'm not going to track, you can continue to follow along if you just want to learn a couple things, but understand you will struggle in the way that we do things, because there's a lot of other ways that some people try to simplify it, and that's where you see other diet plans related to vegan, intermittent fasting, plant-based, carnivore-based, any of those things where they essentially, instead of getting you to track, what they do is just severely limit your options of what you can eat. And the entire premise there is if you limit the options, you limit the consumption. I don't necessarily believe that's true or the right thing to do, because I think it ultimately sets people up for failure. So anyway, two parts. So number one, set up the plan. Number two, follow the plan. All right, so I'm going to dive in here and show you behind the scenes exactly how I set up a plan, and I'm gonna walk you through myself. All right, so like I mentioned, you got to figure out where we're getting started. Now, this is some back-end data that we go ahead and use internally when trying to figure out something, the data for our clients. So I'm just gonna put my name. I'm 30. I'm 5'7", so that's in inches at 67. Weight 198.2. Goal weight, like I mentioned, 175. Some of these things back here are just things that we need in order to calculate some stuff along the way. So sex, I'm going to do male. The reason we do this is that allows us to calculate body fat. One of the ways to calculate body fat is actually using a tape measure. It's not the most accurate. However, it is accurate enough, and it's a good enough factor to give us a general idea. If you want the most accurate, you're going to need to do a DEXA scan, which is going to cost significantly more money than a couple dollars on a tape measure. So as a male, we need to measure 2 points, and I went ahead and did that really quick to get ahead. So I'm at 39, and this is in inches, by the way. And then I'm going to do 16.5. Perfect. So what this shows here is the body fat level I'm in is obese, right? We have different levels that range from, athletic build, fit build, normal build, overweight, obese, morbidly obese, and super obese. So although you might see me on the road and you're like, well, he's not obese, sometimes it's hard, and it's very eye-opening to see some of this information right in front of you. Now, so this is estimating that my body fat percentage is around 25%. In order to see abs, visible abs on a male, you typically need to be around 10%. So I got a long way to go. As far as I mentioned, like your activity, so your calories out, you have non-exercise activity, and you have activity that you're actually going to do it. And part of that activity or non-exercise activity is called your BMR, or basal metabolic rate. The way I like to think of that is your calories before I get out of bed, right? Meaning, if you lay around and do absolutely nothing, that's how many calories you're going to burn in a day doing absolutely nothing. Okay, now that is your base rate. Then you have what's called an activity modifier in order to find how many calories you need to consume, right? That calories in, calories out, right? And these are estimates, by the way. These aren't accurate, or they aren't 100% true. The only way to find the true is actual, tracking and seeing. So when it comes to activity level, we typically have, 5 levels. We have sedentary, light, moderate, high, and extreme. Sedentary, what we use internally is really if you find somebody that's doing less than 6,000 steps a day, we consider them being sedentary. Easiest way to see if you're doing 6,000 steps, most people have smartphones today. Go ahead and you can look. No matter what phone you have, it'll show you, right? Light, you're going to be probably hitting closer to 8,000 steps, but maybe doing a little bit of exercise here and there. Doesn't matter per se the number of times. It's more about how moderate or intense the sessions are. Moderate is going to be more of somebody who is in, probably hitting at least 10,000 steps every single day, but also training 3 to 4 times per week pretty intensely. So that would be where I am. So I'm going to go ahead and put that. So as you can see, it added in some information here. And again, this is just for the sheet to really work. And then as far as how I'm getting there, so I mentioned one of the non-negotiables as a coach is the, calories in. Calories in come in via food, and it also comes in via, water intake or fluid. So based on my weight, recommended ounces is always going to be, starting is always 50% of body weight. So in this case, I need about 100 ounces, which is going to be equivalent to about 6 bottles. Each bottle, and this is coded as like a 16.9 ounce, a typical bottle. And then here is kind of like our preference, right? So there's many ways to get there, and this is kind of like when you have a coach and you're a GPS, you're trying to figure out the best path to get somebody there. And part of figuring out that path is somebody's preferences. So as I mentioned, you have if you're somebody who wants to focus on low fat, low carb, keto zone, whatever, whatever works for you, then that is what we would use. If you're already somebody you follow that, whether it's religious belief, whether it's just a personal belief or what have you, you can absolutely work with that. I choose not to. Now, for 99% of people that don't have anything, I would say to go in a balance. And a balanced diet is going to give you just that, a very balanced diet. But for me, I'm going to go in advance. Reason being is I want to figure out how I can get there, and I'm willing to do what I need to in order to be the most specific to me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, as you can see, it's already going to start pre-populating some stuff. Okay, so don't worry, all this, looks kind of crazy so far. So right here, the goal is, in order, it's recommended, based on the coding and everything that we put in, is to drop about a pound a week. For the most part, I find somebody trying to lose a pound a week is absolutely perfect and is a great place for them to be. For me, I know the absolute best way to decide if somebody wants to look at losing weight. It's not necessarily just a here, but it's more a bracket. When it comes to weight loss, we know how much weight you should lose a week is 0.5 to 1% of total body mass, okay? And we have some things in here that allow us to kind of go through and estimate. So I'm going to come over here. I have this, this is a starting weight, and I'll put over here. So that's starting body fat. So this is the weight and everything that we're looking at doing. And then over here, so like I mentioned, the Aragon body loss per week model basically shows on the low end 0.5% to 1%, which comes down to 0.9 to 1.9 pounds per week. And this is absolutely specific to the person that you would be looking at. Now, it's estimated that 1 pound is the equivalent of 3,500 calories. So in order to lose 1 pound, you would need to lose 3,500 calories per week. Okay, if you break 3,500 divided by 7, that's 500 calories a day. So that's why you can see, the caloric deficit is just below 3,500. And then if you break that evenly, that comes out to 450 calories a day. And on the high end, it's about 899. Now, I know, I'm going to come back over here to our other sheet. I know that what I would want to do is actually be in roughly a 30% deficit. This is not something that I would naturally choose for a lot of people, but this is what I think is going to be best for me based on the information. Reason being is this is going to be a very strict deficit. So what I mean here is this caloric deficit gives us this number, okay, how many calories that we should be having in order to reach the goal. These numbers, which are your macronutrients, only come into play based on the preference. So what if I, let's just say, for example, come over here, it changes all the information, right? But the calories don't change because that's not the method, that's not the route I found is best for me. And that really only comes when you have a congruent conversation between the coach and the client. Now, it's kind of unique for me because I get to do both ends right here. So this is the exact path that I'm going to do. So what I need to do is, now I have the path, my only thing here is to follow the path, and each and every week, just stick to the path, okay? And each day, I'm going to stick to these. Now, again, these are like this is just some internal backend stuff that we use, seeing how everything's going to look and yada yada yada. These are the macronutrients that I'm going to go ahead and put inside MyFitnessPal in order to get me where I want to go. Okay, so I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to track it. Okay, so this is under my caloric intake that I should be hitting. So to give you a reference, this is where the maintenance is 2,800. So I'm just about 890 calories away in order to hit that high end. Now I'm going to talk about this briefly for a minute. On the very start of somebody trying to make a transformation, you are going to have diminishing returns over time. What I mean by that is, over time, you're going to have a lower and lower amount of fat loss that is going to come from fat, right? And you're going to have some fat-free mass lost too. What I mean by that, that's going to be muscle. And we want to mitigate as much muscle as possible being lost. And the only way to do that is as we get lower in body fat, then we want to mitigate how much we're losing. But because I'm at 25% and I'm so far away, I don't need to mitigate that at this point. I can go towards the upper bracket of what I need. And so from here, now I have my plan. All I got to do is stick to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to document the exact process, everything I'm doing each and every day, and show you what I'm doing. And show you that I'm sticking to the plan, and any updates that I'll do, I'm going to do a weekly update and let you know. So anyway, this is exactly how you design a weight loss program, right? Body transformation, or even a weight gain program with the best data that science has to provide, is this right here. So all we got to do now that we have a program, the only thing left is to follow the program. So I'll catch you later and check in on the progress.